this unlocks so many levels of freedom that I know a lot of people don't have. And then it's just like everything that you do, every debt that you pay off, every investment account that you open, every Roth 401k or Roth IRA that you max out gives you a whole nother level of freedom and control over your life like nothing else. And so I couldn't help but keep going. And I'm still going, because I understand the freedoms that you get. You're basically buying back your life with every financial move that you make.
Welcome, Naseema, to Your Next Move. I am so excited to have you here today. And how about you just introduce yourself to my audience? Because when I looked, I call a slasher, where you are this slash this slash this slash this. So, how do you introduce yourself to your people?
First of all, I love being a slashy. That is a Zoolander reference, and I get it. I love it. So I am a whole bunch of things. I'm a labor and delivery nurse. I'm a personal finance enthusiast. I'm a mom. I'm a maternal health advocate, Black maternal health advocate. Like I'm a whole bunch of things. In any given day, I'm usually all of those things at some point during the day. So yeah,
Oh my gosh, all the things. And the founder of Financially Intentional.
that's it.
So, let's start there first, even though I have
Mhm.
a million questions probably for each title. And you're a mom of three daughters?
3 girls.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You're busy. You are real busy.
Mhm. Yes.
So let's start with the phrase financially intentional. What does
Mm.
that mean? Where did it come from?
Thank you for asking that, number 1, but, so I was really good at making money. I've been good at making money for a very long time, but I had gotten to this point where I knew I was good at making money, but that did not equate wealth to me, like, being wealthy. And, I had all the things that most people at any given time would be like, Naseema's really good with money. She's really good with money. Yeah, I'm really good at making money. I got to the point where my daughter was turning 1, single mom, and I was like, I got to figure this out because as much as it looks good that I have, the nice paying career, I have a beautiful house, I had a brand new build, I have a luxury car, like I had all those things. I still knew I was broke. Like I didn't have nothing for her if something were to happen to me. And so I set out on this journey to get my finances together. And I would listen to a lot of podcasts and a lot of interviews. And the word that kept on coming up was intentional, intentionality, all of these things. And so, you know what? I was like, I just need to be more intentional, right? It's all about like the intentionality. It's really not about the act, but it's the intentionality that you put behind it. And so, yeah, that was my name. Like I was like, well, how can I put intentional on my name? And it was like going to be like, be intentional, like all these things. And, through searches and trying to build a website, financially intentional wasn't taken. And so that's what I became.
I appreciate that background. And I feel like your story is one that so many of us, and we're talking about like high achieving women, especially women of color, like you got the car, you got the house, you got the things, you got the job, like all of the numbers, like on paper sound amazing, but privately you're like, what is happening? Like I don't feel how everyone thinks I should feel because that's not my reality. When I look at my bank accounts, when I look at the receipts, it's not feeling the way everyone assumes. So when you talked about your story, and I was doing a little bit of reading on like your CNBC and listening to some podcasts, I heard you on Brown Ambition. I was listening to all the things. You then talked about how after all the things, you also went through a divorce and you had a big IRS bill. So you were
Yeah.
on this journey to kind of line it up for us. Like, how did this happen?
Well, before I got married, I kind of like stumbled upon this on my own. And then through getting married, and I was like married for a very short amount of time, but through getting married, like we got on the same page and we, did the classes together and started building out our budget and all of these kind of things. And then the marriage just went to hell. It was very abusive. He ended up going to jail and all these different kind of things. But even through that, I'm still working on our collective plan, paying off debt, paid off every bill he had. He didn't have any bill, even when he was in jail. And then I decided to get a divorce through the drama.
Mhm.
And in that process, when it was time to file my taxes, I had to file my taxes differently because I was no longer married. Since I, even though the divorce wasn't final, you still have to file married filing separately. So that knocks out a whole bunch of tax exemptions. So just like so a month apart. So by April 15th, I had to pay the IRS $30,000. And then the next month in May is when I finally had my divorce hearing and then had to pay him another $15,000 to get out of my marriage, my very short lived marriage.
Oh my gosh. I'm like, and I feel like divorce, bankruptcy, like feeling like everything is good on paper. So many of us function at such a high level. Like, what
Yep.
is that meme where like it's like all the fires around you? And you're like, everything is okay. I'm not burning. Like, I'm divorced as well. So, overstand, like, I'm divorced and remarried. Like, I think people also don't realize the financial impact that marriage has. It's not just like, of course, it's the breakdown of the relationship and the emotional and mental, and if there's abuse involved and all those things, like it's that huge thing. But then there's a huge financial portion of marriage that people don't really talk about until it dissolves and you're sitting there with your attorney trying to figure it out.
I mean, can we just talk about like all of the things that people don't understand when it comes to being in marriage? I think that marriage is touted as like such this goal and this thing that we should all strive for, while they don't teach you what it really means to be a good partner, what
Mhm.
a marriage actually is, and the simple fact that marriages were created initially as an economic benefit for families, right? And we lost all of that some kind of way. We lost all of those kind of things. And so in the courts though, it's still structured as such, but we don't want to talk about it because we know you talk about like prenups, which actually is the only way that you can decide how you want things to happen if you were to split apart. Not saying
Yeah,
that you
but
will, but it gives you that control. Because best believe, let me just tell you, everybody who gets married has a prenup. It's either you're going to decide on the prenup, or the courts are going to decide on the prenup.
absolutely. It is not
So
always
yes,
amicable.
no, no,
Yeah.
we lose. We the plot has been lost.
Because nobody gets married. I always tell folks all the time, as someone who I've had a tattered relationship past myself, and I'm like, no one gets into a relationship already thinking about it breaking up. Like, you did not get married, assume like, oh, this only gonna be for about 3, 4 years. We're gonna see what's happening, or maybe we'll make it till 10, or when the kids turn 18, we're gonna separate. I'm gonna live my next life. Like, that's never what people think about. So it's so important when things are good to really sit there, get the prenup, outline those terms, and make it strong. And one thing I know, this was not the conversation I planned on having today, but I think it's a very important conversation. One of the things I've learned as someone who's gone through a divorce and gotten remarried is when you look into a prenup, it is only as strong as it's set up. So
Yes,
both parties need to have their own attorney. Both
yes,
people need to make sure that you can say that both people were of sound mind and understood what they were signing to come in together. Because if one person signed under duress, null and void. If one person didn't quite understand, didn't get their own attorney, null and void. And also a disclaimer, because y'all ain't gonna come after me. This is not legal advice. You need to hire your own legal attorney. Naseema and I are just talking about our own stories and experiences. So don't come back over here saying that you did da 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 da. Nope, nope, nope. We don't want to hear it.
not at all.
Yes, yes, yes. But
Yes.
all of those things being a part of your experience, I think it sounds like that's also what really shaped also part of like the intentionality. Like, so how did that help and inform you as you went into your rebuilding phase?
The thing that made the biggest difference through my marriage was because I had developed a strong financial foundation. Number one, I was in a position to pay the IRS, to get out of that marriage. And a lot of people stay because of financial reasons. It don't
Exactly.
matter how they get dragged in that marriage and what is going on. They cannot simply leave. And
Yeah.
that in itself gave me so much momentum. Like, I got to keep on going because
Mhm.
this unlocks so many levels of freedom that I know a lot of people don't have. And then it's just like everything that you do, every debt that you pay off, every investment account that you open, every Roth 401k or Roth IRA that you max out gives you a whole nother level of freedom and control over your life like nothing else. And so I couldn't help but keep going. And I'm still going, because I understand the freedoms that you get. You're basically buying back your life with every financial move that you make.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, you touched on this briefly about debt. So, when I was doing my research on you, you've paid off nearly $1 million of debt in
Mhm,
under 3 years.
mhm.
And the line that got me as I was reading about you was without living in deprivation. Because I feel
Oh,
like when most people think about paying off debt, it's like, all right, let me pinch these pennies, let me zero base, let me no frills, no nothing. And that's the part that makes it so hard. So, what does without deprivation? Let's just make sure we're on the same page. What does
yeah.
without deprivation actually look like in practice for you?
And that's a lot about the intentionality, right? It was because like paying down debt to me was like again, it was I was like built in all these freedoms. The thing that made it different is like, you'll hear stuff about live off of beans and rice and don't do anything else. Well, if you do that, you're never going to stick to your plan. So I built in
Mm.
rewards in my system. And so yes, I
Oh,
zero based budgeted. I love that. But I also I was, my daughter was obsessed with Disney and I loved taking her to Disneyland because it's just such a magical place. And so I built into my budget a vacation budget. And then every other month we would go to Disneyland. I live in Northern California. Disneyland is in Southern California.
wow.
So that's a plane ticket. That's the Disney passes. So we had annual passes, which are a grip, and that's
Mm.
hotels. And so it's little things like that, like whatever makes you happy, whatever makes your life worth living, you built that in there. And I was able to do that, funded fully cash, and then everything else didn't matter. The problem is most people don't know where their money is going. First of all, they don't know what's going in, coming out. Like they don't know where their money is going. And so it
Mhm.
a budget can look like deprivation, but the bottom line is you probably don't even know where you're spending your money on. Instead of creating a budget where you spend money on only the things that bring you joy and forget about the rest. I mean, bills and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah, they may not bring you joy, but if you set aside money and spend that every month on things that you absolutely love, why wouldn't you stick to a budget or a spending plan or whatever you want to call it?
And that's such a powerful point because I think when we think about budgeting, it's always what can we cut? What can we cut so we can get more money to go toward debt? Like I couldn't
Mhm.
imagine a budget that didn't have, I need my manicure.
Yeah,
I
you
need
have
it.
to. You have to. You
I
have
need it. Like
to.
everybody has their thing. I love a monthly massage. Those are my things. And I feel like most of the time, most financial experts always say, oh, no, no frills, no fun, pay down this debt. Then we talk about it. But it's almost like a diet. Like what I hear you saying, it's almost like if you are on a really strict diet and you can't have any fun, any fun, any fun. So then the diet's over, like 30 days is up, then you binge because
Yes.
you haven't had anything you want. But if you have a cheat day, if you have cheat meals, if you have things incorporated, you learn how to make your favorite foods, that means that when you're off the diet, you're going to be okay. So when you're done with your debt, you'll still be okay because you've learned to maintain a budget with the things that matter to you. And it's not like a get out of jail free card. Now you can just act crazy. And that's when you run it all back up again.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
love that.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a really big mindset shift, though,
Mhm.
about how
Mhm.
people think about money. So when you think about your mindset toward money, how would you describe that to someone?
My money is a tool, first and foremost. Like, but my money is working for me all the time. My money is making sure, even when I'm not looking, that I'm gonna be good. And money doesn't need a vacation. Money doesn't need time off. And the thing is that you just set it and you leave it alone. And the better, the more you can just do that, the better it's gonna do. Fidelity did a study a long time ago on looking at the best investment accounts, like the ones with the biggest growth. And those were accounts of people that were dead. So they couldn't go in and manipulate it. So I like, first of all, I'm a very simple girl. I dress simply, like everything in my house is simply, I only like certain things, very simple, simple. So when it comes to like the way I look at my money, I want it to be simple. I want it to be easy. I don't want to have to think about it all the time. I want it to run in the background. And that's the way I've
Mm.
set my money up. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. So, when I
Mhm.
was reading your story, after becoming debt free, it sounds like you pivoted to aggressively saving and maximizing like your investment, which makes sense. Like you talked about
Mhm.
403Bs, all of the Roth IRAs for your kids because they earn an income, even from social media content, which we definitely
Yes.
need to chat about. What do you wish that high earning women understood about wealth building that you feel like most people don't normally talk about?
Well, one thing, and I forgot to say this earlier, I think number one, it was really important to me to get in the personal finance space because there's not a lot of people that look like me. And so when they give advice, it's only going to be relevant to their reality. The
Yeah.
reality of a Black woman is our hair costs a lot of money, so you can't just be like, and we have the whole beauty tax, period.
Yes.
And especially if we're in professional settings, and the women that I talk to are usually in professional settings where appearance does matter. You do have to keep up, so that needs to be in your budget. You can't cut that. And a
Oh
man will look
yeah.
at your budget like, why are you spending $1,500 on your hair? Do you know how much hair costs? Do you know how much this weave costs? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
you don't get that. And so we need people to speak to that. And so that's another thing that you'll put in your budget. The other thing
Mm.
is that now I forgot what
No, no,
I
no.
forgot what the
That would be a
original
great
question
point though,
was.
because I think that as women, we don't think about how our budget should be different. I think a lot of the quote unquote finance grades, like so in my industry, learning and development, a lot of the learning and development grades are all older white men. And when you look at them and you compare like what your budget needs to look like, what your company looks like in comparison to mine, what you're talking about in comparison to what I'm talking about. Same with finance. Like a man may not understand, like, okay, no, 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 I need brows, I need hair, I need nails. I'm like in a client facing role. I need rent the runway because I
Mhm,
can't
yeah,
wear the same dress every single time to the stakeholder meeting that I have
yeah,
once a week. There's different luxuries that people may say are luxuries, but really and truly in certain environments, it's the
mhm,
standard. It's
yeah,
like this is the standard. There's different ways to do it to be more cost effective, right? You may not be shopping every week, but you have rent the runway and
yes,
you use that membership every single 2 weeks. I used to do that when I was in corporate and recycle them and come back. When I have a lot of speaking engagements, I 100% tap back in the rent runway. So I'm not
yes.
buying every single time. So I'm like, but those are things that need to be included in the budget based upon where you are. And
Yeah.
that's an incredible point that I didn't even think about.
But okay, now I remember what we were talking about. So
Oh,
you're talking about like the switch from like paying down debt really, really hard and then investing. And it
yes.
just so happened that that's the course that I took because like that's the message that I knew. I knew I had hella student loan debts and like all this other kind of stuff. And as I was going through my journey and paying down debt, that's when I discovered the FIRE movement. And FIRE stands for Financially Independent, Retire Early. And if you remember, I don't know if you were at the first retreat or second retreat, my Tasha retreat. But anyway, it was introduced to me by one of my favorite people in the world. Her name is Jamila Souffrant. And like we had
Yep,
started
I
our
know
platforms
her.
together. Yeah. So we had started our platforms together. And then she was heavy into that. And I was like, oh, okay. I was more like debt free community is this whole other space. But like then I was like, wait a minute. So you telling me that retirement isn't an age, it's a number? Tell me more. So I already knew I could do the things, right? So I was
Yes.
like, let me put the same amount of effort that I did in paying down this debt into getting my investments up. And when I tell you, it only took a couple of years of me
Wow.
maximizing my accounts, like maxing out my 403B. And I'm fortunate to have a 457, which is deferred compensation, but 403, 457, and hitting that Roth. And I was a millionaire right after paying off $1 million of debt. It only took a couple of years. Like, I was like, okay.
That's amazing. It's so
Yeah.
funny. I was listening to another interview today and they spoke about fire and I found a fire calculator and I was like, Kimberly, let's work on this debt first. But I was thinking about fire and how important and how free. I think that when it comes to money, I think a lot of people just think about it from a aspect of buying what you want. Like I'd be lying if I said I wasn't gonna get a bag or two. I love some YSL. I love some Gucci. Like, but I think well, yes, we all have our thing, right? But wealth and having the money where you don't need to think about it, whether you reach fire or whatever feels good for you. I think the reoccurring theme for me always comes back to freedom. The freedom to leave the job, to leave the marriage, to go to the place, to invest in your kids, to invest in your future, the freedom to do whatever you so please when the opportunity arises, or you can make the opportunity arise.
Yeah, the thing is, a lot of us think that being rich is being able to just afford whatever you want, but it's not just that. What happens is once you have a portfolio that's working for you, there is no way you can outspend how much money your money is making for you. And
Mm.
once you get to that point, you're like, well, then the purses and all that kind of stuff. Like, and the thing is, it does not take that long. Like, it's like I can spend however much money. Like, I took a couple of months off um last year, and I kept on feeling guilty about spending money. I was just like, yeah, I'm not really like bringing in like income like I was. But then I kept on looking at my net worth, and it wouldn't matter how much money I spent. That thing kept on going up and up and up and up. And I'm sitting here like, girl, you tripping. Like, you better spend that money and enjoy the time with your kids and stop playing.
I love that. So I want to get super tangible for a moment because one thing I've realized about you and your response is you keep on saying, it doesn't take that long. It doesn't take that long. You can do it. It doesn't take that long. So for someone who is listening to the podcast today and they have some debt, they have some debt that they have to get rid of, especially credit card debt, student loan debt. They have a little bit of retirement because I think a lot of what we're talking about, like the high achieving women, like you got a little retirement because you should have it. So most of
Mhm,
us, even if you just put the minimum, you got a
mhm,
little, but nothing to talk about. Like you
mhm,
can't retire tomorrow, but you do
mhm.
have some substantial debt. What would you say your time frame could look like to really turn the ships around?
So most people see extraordinary differences in just 2 years of being intentional and having a system in place. Most people get to the point where work is optional for them in less than 10 years, usually like between that 7 and 10 year mark, once they like stick to a plan. So anybody that I know that has like really like dug in and like been intentional about investing, paying down debt and all those kind of things, their trajectory is anywhere from like, yeah, 2 to 10 years. And I know thousands of people in the space, and this is what I do. I interview people, and I follow a lot of people, and these people are my friends now firsthand. And so, yeah, they will tell you it takes about 2.5 years, but to fully get there, about like 10 years. It does not take long, and that's why I be like telling people like as soon like I really try to like talk to especially like young nurses because we have really good high earning potential and you can be a nurse at a really young age. Like, listen, like just don't inflate your lifestyle too much. Set things up in the background, and in 5 to 10 years, you'll be straight. Okay, like I there's this whole thing about like, oh, we need to ditch the bedside and like go and be MPs and go back to school and get a degree. How about you just work really hard for a couple of years and then you can do whatever the hell you want, but it's not because of the money or it's not because you burnt out, it's because you have the assets behind you to be able to throw up the deuces whenever you don't like something.
That is so beautiful and also not what I feel like you think is possible. So I'm 38. I'll be 39 this summer. And I'm like, before I'm 50, being work optional. And if I hustle, we can bump that up maybe about 45, about
And
45.
Kimberly, and you're married, so that cuts the time in half. Because when you're working with a partner and you on the same page with a partner, I'm telling you, 2 years, girl.
I'm about to
Y'all
bring
be
him into the
like, what?
podcast interview. Like, listen here, honey. We got a
Send him
plan.
my way, okay? Listen, I will put him up on game. Like, listen, like if you guys like do it together. And the other thing that you said is like we all got a little something. A lot of people will come to me and be like, I don't know how to invest. Girl, you've been investing.
You got a
You've
little
been
bit, but it's
investing.
just
You
not
are an
the number
investor.
you want.
Yes. So you're not starting from zero, especially because you're not starting from zero. Oh my
Mm.
God. All you need is a plan. And you can just knock it out. Like, and it's not hard. It's again, it's just those things you put into place, you set it and forget it, or you have a plan. What's the next debt you plan off? What's the next account you got to max out? Just do that. Know that it's running for you. Set it up so it's running for you in the background. You're making a couple of tweaks. It shouldn't take more than 30 minutes a month to tweak everything that you need. And you set for life.
I
Like
love that. And this is what you teach people how to do this?
100%. Yes.
Oh,
100%.
I love we're obviously gonna ask how to work with you and all the things at the end. But I wanna shift back just a little bit because I do think when it
Mhm.
comes to finances, there gonna be a lot of shame around sharing the numbers, around saying that you aren't where everybody thinks you are, especially for this like profile, like where you identify with it, I identify with it. I know our listeners do in terms of like being having all the things on paper, winning the award, looking fabulous, but then when you go look at your accounts, you're just like, okay, how can I rob Peter to pay Paul and this will be okay? And things are tighter than you'd like it to be. What gave you the courage to do this for yourself and do it publicly? Like to
Oh,
be
it's
that
very
honest and vulnerable.
transparently. Yeah.
Yes, like how? Like I see that and I was like, oh Lord, not I.
Yeah, a lot of people don't, but I do it for the people that don't. I don't know. I grew up like each one teach one. And I just feel like the only thing that counters shame is to actually talk about it and address it. And I just know, like, from being in a domestic violence situation, those kind of situations perpetuate in silence. And
Mm.
anything that you feel shame about is going to keep on perpetuating in silence. And until you're brave enough to speak up about it or do something about it, it's going to keep on coming up. No matter if you do the things, right? You still have to address it head on in order for it to change. And the bottom line is most people think, oh, I just need a financial advisor to help fix my stuff. Most people actually need a therapist that focuses on money trauma because I don't know any person that does not have money trauma that is dictating the way that they spend money. And it's a lot of things. It could be the way that your parents were raised. Like I had an experience where even in my business, like I used to be like, why am I scared to make money in my business? And it went back to like when I was a kid, my mom used to try all these crazy things to like make money. And if it failed, it would spiral into her going into this really deep depression and it would affect our relationship. And so for me, I was like, well, if I tied money to my business and it failed, it was this thing in me that was like, I don't want to go down that same spiral. And so for years and years and years in my business, I didn't make a priority to make money because I was scared to let that impact me. And so,
Mm.
like, you have to really work on those things, or you will be self sabotaging over and over and over in ways that you can't even identify until you look back and get those things addressed. So, money therapists, they are out there, but you need to get one that can identify with your issues too, because we know that not everybody, just like a regular therapist, they gotta kind of understand where you're coming from.
I think that's a common theme. I've been in and out of therapy for years. Currently, I have a therapist who I love. I've been with her for almost a year now. I switched over some time, and one of the things I feel like I've learned about therapy is that there is a root to almost everything. And a lot of times, for folks who aren't in therapy, one of the things I share is that I feel like you don't know where the root begins.
Mhm.
And we assume it has to be catastrophic. We assume it has to be this massive situation that was devastating, terrible, very, very, very bad, sad day. But it could be like the smallest lesson that you learned that your underdeveloped brain at 3, at 5, at 10, at 16, you learned, you internalized, and you made true. But now you at 30 plus, 40 plus, 50 plus are still believing that thing at whatever age you learned it is true, and that's how you act. And that's how we
Mhm.
show up in the world. That's why people always talk about that, like working on your inner child, and people hate saying those words. But the issue is that, like, maybe you weren't a child, you could have been a teen, you could have been in your 20s. Wherever you learned this thing is causing essentially self sabotaging behaviors that are
Mhm.
impacting you right here, right now. And until you
Mhm.
heal that, whether it's money, relationships, work, like anything, you're going to continue to hit that roadblock and be unhappy and unfulfilled.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So I recommend therapy all the
Yeah,
time.
10 out of 10.
Not a
So,
few.
another question I have, I'm not sure if I should ask, but I'm going to ask it anyways. So, you are here making all this money. Why are you still working as a labor and delivery nurse?
Because first of all, I love being a labor and delivery nurse. I still love my job. Like people are
I
like,
love
well,
that.
and I'm also a nurse practitioner that has never practiced as an NP. And let's just say that because I really genuinely love being a nurse. I really feel like my impact at the bedside is something that is unmatched. I get to advocate for patients in a way that I'm really proud of. That's number one. Number two, I make really good money as a nurse. That helps a
Mm.
lot, right? My nursing career is what skyrocketed me to a place of financial freedom. And yes, I could make more money in my business, 100%. But I don't nearly make nearly as much money in my business as I make as a nurse. And could that reverse? Yes. Again, I have to get over my self-sabotaging ways and get out of my way a little bit. But it's just like a lot of times we want to jump ship and you know, there is no shortage of people on the internet telling you that working a 9 to 5 is slavery. You traded time for
Mhm.
money. And I'm just like, have you ever worked for yourself? You the worst slave driver in the world, okay? Your brain can't shut off. I could go to work, I can have all these things happen, and I come home and I'm done. Okay. I clock out, I'm done. And I made really, really good money doing that. And I love it. And nobody forgets their birth experience. So I get to be a part of that. And then, I just think that it's a lot of noise in just a space that you have to be an entrepreneur. And first, and then secondly, let me just tell you, I did not start this platform as a business. And so a lot of things I'm like working backwards to do, even though I've been doing it for a long time. I started this platform just to have a central space to talk to my group of girlfriends that I've been friends with since like the seventh grade. And
Wow.
then it kind of exploded organically. Like it wasn't for this. I created this platform before content creation was like a thing. It was just like I hate repeating myself. I told my friends we had a sleepover at my house. I'm gonna just put this thing up there because I think you could benefit from it, but I don't feel like explaining it to all y'all individually. So just follow this page, and then that's it. That is all it was for.
That is so beautiful, though. And I feel like folks who have some of the most authentic businesses that we know, like, trust, love, it came from such like an honest place of like, I'm just doing this because I want to help someone. I'm just doing this to show my girlfriends because I'm tired of being in the group chat and saying it 18 times. Like, it's the same thing, Jennifer. It's the same thing that I told Rebecca. Read the post, and I'm not saying it again. Like, and here you are,
Yeah,
years later.
yeah,
Oh,
for
that's so
real.
beautiful. I love that. And I think that I also love the message you shared about like 9 to 5 jobs. So I'll be 5 years as a full time entrepreneur in May.
Hmm.
May 20th. And exactly what you said about 9 to 5s being slave drivers. Like I thought I worked hard in my 9 to 5 role and I had a global role. So I always tell people like I was up, I'd have calls at 5 a.m. sometimes if I needed to talk to people and catch them at the right time. 7 a.m. And then other markets, because global means global time zones. Not everybody does your time zone. I was on the call 7, 8, 9. End of day really and truly meant end of day. Because when you have a global job, if I can get it to my leader by 9, 10, 11, I can turn it around, edit, and we can present it at 7 a.m. on the call. Like I worked hard, hard. But as an entrepreneur, exactly what you said, when I tell you I'll wake up in the middle of the night, like, oh my God, did I send the email? Did I put the task in the right place? Like, does my team know? Your brain is always, always, always on, and you never get to be off again. I think until you get to a place where you have more team or scaling, but it still feels so different. Like I tell folks who, when in the entrepreneur community, don't tell people who work for me, but I do say that like I know where every dollar comes from. So when I hire someone to do a job and they don't do said job, it hurts me 10 times more because I can tie that dollar back to the late nights, to the overthinking, to the tasks, to the client projects. I'm still very connected. I know, and I touch basically all of my business. I have contractors, but not full time right now.
Yeah.
And it's tough. And even when I had W-2 employees, thinking about this is their only job, I am responsible for paying their mortgage, their rent. Like, I don't know what it was about that, but it like hit my spirit differently. And now I don't have W-2 and I kind of like it. Like it's going to take me a while to go back to W-2 because I felt like I'm just holding my chest. Like if you're watching the video, I'm holding my chest
It's
because
a
I felt
big weight.
It's a big
Yes.
weight. So I think that people look at entrepreneurship as it's so glamorous, it's so sexy, and yes, it's freedom. Yes, technically you have unlimited earning potential, but also like it's also unlimited working potential to make that extra money until you get to a place where you have more team and all the things. And even then, it's still more deeply attached to you. So I
Mhm.
love that. Like my book, like transitioning into a career you'll love. I love hearing people say that they love their job because that's how I also felt. Like when I was in corporate and when I worked in higher ed, I really loved my work. And if the right company were to come to me and act right, I might could go back too. Like if they came and they allowed me to be who I am and I could still do things, I would be very tempted. Very, very tempted because I think there's an ease that creates ease in every other area of your life. And it's also just so beautiful to know that like you like your job and you are absolutely correct. I used to say exactly what you said about like the labor and delivery nurse, like, but I used to say it in a different way when I worked in higher ed. So you said that like nobody forgets their labor experience. Like they remember that day, they remember all the people. When I used to work in admissions in higher ed, one of the reasons why I no longer wanted to work in admissions is because I said the opposite. I was like, nobody remembers their admissions counselor. Like you get into
Mm.
college and you don't talk to them anymore. Like, but you have relationships in other places in the university. I'm like, so I moved into career development because I'm like, I get to selfishly keep you for all of your undergrad. I get to keep you for grad. I get to still coach you as an alumni, and we can actually build a relationship versus admissions. It's over. And then you don't remember who talked to you to get into the college, who gave you your
I
acceptance letter.
remember my
You
admissions
do?
counselor. We're still friends to this day.
Oh, my,
Her
so
name
what
is
was it about
Orly
them that made
Denny.
you keep them?
First of all, she was a black woman at USD.
Okay.
She's from LA. She was really crunk. She was like, "Hey girl, you from Oakland?" And then she transitioned by the time I had gotten to the school, she had transitioned to run the Black Cultural Center. And then so she was in
Got
charge.
it.
I lived on the all black floor and then she was in
Okay.
charge of running that floor. But just genuinely the person that she was, I would have remembered her forever. So
I
just
love
what
that.
I do
That
remember
is
what
rare. That is very rare. Most people are like, who did my tour?"
right, right.
I love that though.
But we were talking about like going back to corporate. I have a friend who's actually a financial therapist, right? And she ran her business. She wrote a book, and then she got kind of scouted, but like for her like dream job. And she was like,
Mhm.
"Wow, like this role was like created for me." And so she went back to from being a therapist full time to working for this company. And then she's just like, "Oh my god, like this is so beautiful!" Like, and it's almost like too easy. Like I spend like 10 minutes on my job and then I don't have nothing else. And she was like, I don't know. I kind of feel guilty. And I'm just like, see, especially because number one, we're always like really high achievers and we're used to like
Mhm.
doing all of the things. And
It
so
shouldn't be
like
easy. They gotta work harder.
exactly. And then we have this guilt if we have this free time, right? And then she was an entrepreneur. So she was doing all of the things all the time. She's making really, really good money. She's doing the things that she loves and is not taking up any like brain cells for her. And I was like, if she don't start thinking like Chad and reversing it, like, oh my God, this company needs me. What would they do without me? Like I am such an asset to this company. I'm like, we got to start
Yes.
thinking more like Chad because we be selling ourselves short. Come on now.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Oh my goodness. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the type of role that I'd be up for. If someone came to me with the right little magical role, yes, please. I will be over there.
Yeah.
So before I let you go, because I clearly could just chit chat. It feels like we're just chit chatting and there happens to be cameras on. I want to talk a little bit about your book because I think that I'm an author. I know you're an author. I think that books are such a beautiful way for people to spend time with you and get all the information. You've shared a lot of things today. And I know literally from the title, Smart Money, the step-by-step personal finance plan to crush debt. Like I know that you're going to give the plan. So tell us a little bit about your book. When did it come out? And what made you write it?
So that book came out, I think in 2020, 2020, 2021. That book, it was interesting. I wrote it like to give me authority, right, in this space. But I really want to write another book, a different book that is more personal. Because this book was kind of, it was kind of through a non-traditional publisher. It wasn't like the way that I would typically want to write a book, but I got it done. And let me tell you something, I got this done through working as a nurse during COVID, being coming home, my daughter was in kindergarten, out of school, being a teacher. I made a big move during that time. Like a whole lot of stuff was going on in the background, but I knocked that book out. And so I'm proud of it in that sense. But it wasn't necessarily like the book that I want to write, because it was more of a prescriptive, like, this is how you do X, Y, and Z. But I think we learn a lot more through stories. And I want to share a
Mm.
book that is more about like the stories of the background of all the stuff that was going on in my life and how I got to where I'm at in spite of everything that could have distracted me. So I'm way more looking forward to that. But Smart Money, you want to check that out. It has some great tips and techniques in order to get you where you want to be financially. It's not just about debt. It's about, how to invest and all of those kind of things too. And it's a great starter book. But I'm looking forward to, and I finally got to the place where I am out of like the writer's PTSD, because I had a lot of PTSD after that. Now people was approaching me about books, and I was like, listen here, sister, I'm not ready. I'm finally at the point where I think I'm ready to talk about those things, in a way that is relatable for people that look like us, so we know what's possible.
Naseema, I love that. And I know we met in, I think it was 2018,
Yes.
which is, it feels like well, I know it was a decade ago. It's closer
Almost.
to a decade ago versus not being a decade ago.
Yes.
I just carried my Taught You retreat tote the other day at the grocery store. Every day I look at it, I was like, oh my gosh, like I love it. I still have it.
Listen, I
Like in
told
20,
mine up. Mine is tatted and battered because I done took that thing so many
oh yeah.
places.
Yes, it is used and abused, and I love it, and it brings such fond memories. It's interesting, like, even though we haven't been in touch since that time, my book also came out in 2021, and I say the same thing about working toward my second book, so when this interview ends, we gotta chit-chat, and maybe we could be writing accountability partners, because
Yes.
writing a book is a beast, and I am very excited about book 2. My process also is like, I would have came to you, or you could have came to me to do writing series, because I was still working full-time, building my business full time. My marriage was on the downfall during that time. So I was stressed, but got the
Yes.
book out, did the book tour, did all the things. Like we should have been chatting more.
Yes, we
Um,
should.
yes, but for the next book, we're going to be in
Yeah.
alignment. I love that.
Okay.
So before I let you go, I want to ask you one final question before you can tell everybody where to find you. I want to hear about the legacy that you're building, not just for your audience, but for your three daughters, for you. Like, what is the legacy that you are working toward right now?
Honestly, I just want to be the change in my family, and it only takes that one person. Like, I look at the things that I do and I create and put out there, and I know that it's something that my daughters can look back on with pride, and also as a roadmap. Like, even if it's to avoid the mistakes that I made. And so my legacy is setting up my daughters in a way that they can opt out of a lot of the bullshit that I had to go through,
Yes, indeed.
and with the sound financial footing that they can carry on for generations to come.
I love that. So on that note, please let the people know, where can they find you? Where can they follow you? How can they get into your orbit?
So I'm mostly on Instagram as financially intentional, but everywhere else. But I also have a podcast, the Financially Intentional Podcast, which is every podcast player I've been around for years. You can binge. I have hundreds of episodes going back to even before, like in 2018, I started it, and it was called Nurses on Fire. So it mostly highlighted nurses that were on a path to financial independence. And I have some incredible stories. So even then, like, even if you're not a nurse, you can learn a lot from and meet some incredible people. But I talk about all these things in depth in my podcast. And honestly, selfishly, I use it as a place where I learn and get to meet a lot of
Yes.
new people. I've met some incredible people who I'm really, really close to right now. And I've learned so much through that process. So like my podcast is like my private, like little like personal thing I will never let go, because of all the doors it's opened up for me and all the people it has exposed me to, and all of just the different ways of thinking, that I have access to. And so if you like that kind of stuff, you'll love the podcast. But yeah, if you like to see me dance and talk about numbers in a realistic way, Instagram is the place.
I love that. I love that. I will link everything in the show notes. And just thank you. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. And as always, to everyone listening or watching, may your next move be your very best move.
Hey.